Dr. Velteron looked through the thick glass at his newest subjects. The four small humans sat quietly in their observation chamber. He made notes on his electronic pad about their behavior. The Veltari scientist had studied many species over the years, but humans were still new to him. The research station Omega-7 floated silently in space between human and Velthari territory. It was a place where scientists from both species could work together. At least that was what most people believed. Dr. Velteron had other ideas about what research meant. 3 days ago, a human ship had problems with its engines near the station. The ship carried families going to an important peace meeting. When the engines failed, everyone had to be rescued quickly. In all the confusion, some people got lost. 4 human children disappeared during the rescue. Their families were told the children died when the engines exploded. This was not true. Minho pressed his face against the wall of their room. He was 8 years old and the second oldest of the group. "This place is weird," he said to the others. "The walls feel funny." Jiwan, who was only 6, sat in the corner playing with some blocks the aliens had given them. "I want to go home," she said quietly. "Where is my mom?" Taehyun was 10 and felt responsible for the younger children. He walked around the room, touching the walls and looking at everything. "We need to figure out where we are," he said. "Something is wrong here." So-young was 7 and very smart. She watched the ceiling where strange lights blinked on and off. "They are watching us," she said. "See those lights? Those are cameras." Dr. Velteron was pleased with how calm the human children seemed. Other species' young ones usually cried or tried to hide when they were brought to the station. But these human children were different. They talked to each other and seemed to be thinking about their situation. The Velthari scientist made more notes. Human children appeared to be much more intelligent than he had expected. They also seemed to take care of each other in ways that other species did not. This was interesting data for his research. Outside their room, the children's parents were dealing with terrible sadness. Hyunwoo had been told his son Minho was dead. He sat alone in his quarters on the rescue ship, staring at the wall. Hyunwoo used to be a soldier before he became a diplomat. He knew how to fight, but he could not fight the pain in his heart. Yoonji was an engineer who worked on starships. She had built the engines that kept ships flying through space. But she could not fix the broken feeling inside her chest when they told her Jiwon was gone. She kept looking at the technical reports from the rescue, trying to understand what had happened. Wonbin was a scientist who studied how different alien species thought and acted. He had spent years learning about other cultures, but none of his knowledge helped him deal with losing his son Taehyun. He kept asking questions about the rescue, but no one seemed to have good answers. Nari worked with communication systems. She could talk to ships anywhere in the galaxy, but all her technology could not bring her daughter So-young back. She sat in the communication room, listening to the empty static from space. Ambassador Kyungjae was in charge of the whole diplomatic mission. He had to keep working even though 4 children had died. But something felt wrong to him. The rescue reports did not make sense. There were gaps in the timeline that no one could explain. His assistant Dayun was very good at finding information. She spent hours looking through computer files and communication records. "Sir," she said to Ambassador Kyungjae, "I think we need to look at this more carefully. Some things do not add up." Meanwhile, back in their room, the 4 children were making plans. Taehyun had found that some of the wall panels were loose. Minho discovered that the toys they were given could be taken apart to make tools. Jiwon, even though she was the youngest, was very good with anything electronic. She found hidden wires behind the toys. So-young watched the patterns of the blinking lights. "They check on us every hour," she told the others. "When the red light turns green, someone is watching. When it is blue, no one is looking." Dr. Velteron was excited by what he saw. The human children were working together like a team. They were solving problems and making plans. This was exactly the kind of behavior he wanted to study. He made more notes and prepared to run more tests. The Velthari scientist did not understand what he was really seeing. He thought the children were just being clever, like smart animals in a zoo. He did not realize that human children learned by watching their parents. Minho had watched his father plan military operations. Ji-won had seen her mother fix complicated machines. Tae-hyun had learned from his father how to understand other people's behavior. So-young had helped her mother with communication equipment. Captain Jinho commanded the ship that had escorted the diplomatic mission. He was a military man who had fought in several wars. Something about the whole situation bothered him. The rescue had been too easy in some ways and too hard in others. He kept thinking about the energy readings his ship had detected from the station. "The power usage does not match what they told us," he said to his first officer, Young-ho. "They say they are only running life support and basic systems, but my sensors show much more power being used." Young-ho nodded. "Should we investigate, sir?" "Not yet," Captain Jinho said. "But keep watching. Something is not right here." In the research station, Dr. Velteran prepared for the next phase of his study. He wanted to see how the human children would react to different situations. He planned to separate them and see if they would still work together. He wanted to test their intelligence and their emotional responses. The Velthari scientist believed he was doing important work. In his mind, he was helping both species understand each other better. He did not think about how the children felt. He did not consider that taking someone's child might be wrong. To him, they were just subjects, to be studied. But the human children were not giving up. As the hours passed, they continued to work on their plans. They tested the walls, studied the cameras, and learned the routines of their captors. They were scared, but they were also angry. And they were determined to get home. Tae-hyun looked at the others. "We are going to get out of here," he said. "We just need to be smart about it." The 4 children did not know that their parents thought they were dead. They did not know that their disappearance was part of an alien research project. All they knew was that they had been taken from their families, and they wanted to go home. Dr. Veltaran watched them through his cameras and made his notes. He was very pleased with his new subjects. He had no idea that he had just made the biggest mistake of his life. 3 days had passed since the children were taken. Ambassador Kyungjae sat in his office looking at the rescue reports for the 10th time. Something was wrong, but he could not figure out what it was. The numbers did not add up right. Da-hyun knocked on his door. "Sir, I found something strange." She carried a data pad with communication logs. "Look at these messages between the station and their home world." Kyungjae read through the encrypted files Da-hyun had managed to decode. Most of the messages were normal station business. But buried in the middle were references to new subjects and behavioral testing of young specimens. "This could mean anything," Kyungjae said, but his voice showed he was worried. "Many species bring their young here for educational visits." "Yes, sir," Da-hyun agreed. "But look at the timing. These messages started right after our rescue operation." In the research lab, Dr. Veltaran was watching his subjects with growing excitement. The human children had done something he had never seen before. They had organized themselves into a system where each child had a job. Tae-hyun was clearly the leader. He made decisions and gave directions to the others. Minho acted like a guard, always watching the doors and walls. Ji-won worked with anything electronic or mechanical. So-young served as their communicator, watching the patterns of their captors and reporting what she learned. "Fascinating," Dr. Veltaran said to his assistant. "They have created a social structure in just 3 days. Most species take weeks to organize like this." The children had also started making tools. They took apart their toys and used the pieces to make things that might help them escape. Ji-won had figured out how to make a small electronic device from toy parts. Minho had made sharp tools from broken plastic. Tae-hyun had created a map of their room using pieces of fabric. But what really amazed Dr. Veltaran was how they took care of each other. When Ji-won cried because she missed her mother, the older children would comfort her. When Minho got angry about being trapped, So-young would calm him down. They shared their food equally and made sure everyone felt safe. The Velthari scientist had studied many species, but he had never seen young ones act like this. Most species' children were selfish and focused only on themselves. These human children seemed to care more about the group than about individual needs. Meanwhile, the children's parents were trying to deal with their grief. But each parent was also starting to notice things that did not make sense. Hyunwoo had been a soldier for many years before becoming a diplomat. He knew how rescue operations worked. The reports from their rescue bothered him. Why did it take so long to search for survivors? He asked Captain Jinho. And why did you not find any bodies? Captain Jinho had been wondering the same thing. The station commander said the explosion destroyed everything in that section, he answered. But my sensors showed that section was still intact. Yoonji was studying the technical reports about the engine failure. As an engineer, she understood how ship engines worked. The failure pattern was wrong. This engine did not break down naturally, she told her husband over their communication link. Someone made it fail. Wanbin was using his knowledge of alien psychology to watch the Velthari crew. Something about their behavior was strange. They seemed nervous when the human parents asked questions. They avoided talking about certain parts of the station. They are hiding something, he told Nari during one of their private conversations. Nari had been monitoring all communications going in and out of the station. She found several messages that were heavily encrypted. Normal station business does not need this much security, she said. They are definitely hiding something. On the station, more strange things were happening. Captain Jinho had sent his technical officer Minji to scan different parts of the station. She found that large amounts of power were being used in areas that should have been empty. Sir, Minji reported to Captain Jinho. Someone is using enough power to run a small city down in the research levels. But according to the station plans, those areas should only have storage rooms. The human cultural attaché Miran had been talking with the Velthari staff. She was trained to read alien body language and behavior. The Velthari were acting like people who had secrets. They would not look directly at her when she asked certain questions. They changed the subject when she mentioned the rescue operation. Seokjin was the security specialist for the human mission. He had been quietly checking the station's security systems. What he found worried him. They have cameras and sensors everywhere, he told Moran, even in areas where no one is supposed to be. Back in their prison, the children were making progress on their escape plan. Jiwon had managed to connect her homemade device to the room's electronics. She could not control anything yet, but she was learning how the systems worked. I think I can talk to the computer that runs this place, she whispered to the others, but it will take time. Taehyun had found that one of the wall panels was definitely loose. With the tools Minho had made, they might be able to remove it completely. If we can get this panel off, we might be able to get into the walls, he said. So-young had been studying the guards who brought them food. They come every 6 hours, she reported. Always the same 2 guards. They stay for exactly 3 minutes. During that time, the cameras in the hallway turn off. Minho had been exercising and staying strong. He also practiced fighting moves his father had taught him. If we get out of this room, I can protect us, he promised the others. Dr. Velteran was so focused on studying the children that he did not notice other things happening on the station. He did not see that the human adults were asking more and more questions. He did not realize that Captain Jinho's ship was scanning the station with more powerful sensors every day. The Velthari scientist was making a terrible mistake. He thought, the human children were just clever animals that could be studied and then returned when he was finished. He did not understand that human families had bonds that other species did not have. He did not know that taking someone's child was the worst thing you could do to a human. Station Commander Keth Moran was starting to worry. The human adults were asking too many questions. Their ship was scanning the station too carefully. But Dr. Velteran insisted that his research was too important to stop. Just a few more days, Dr. Velteran pleaded. I am learning so much about human behavior. This research could change how all species understand each other. Commander Keth Moran was not a scientist. He was a military officer who understood the importance of keeping secrets. The humans are getting suspicious, he warned. If they discover what we are doing, there will be serious problems. But Dr. Velteran would not listen. He was too excited about his research to think about the consequences. The children continued working on their escape plan. They had no idea that their parents thought they were dead. They did not know that people were starting to look for them. All they knew was that they wanted to go home and they were willing to do whatever it took to get there. As the days passed, the tension on the station grew stronger. The human adults were getting closer to the truth. The children were getting closer to escaping. And Dr. Veltaran was getting closer to making a discovery that would change everything. None of them realized that they were all heading toward a confrontation that would shake the entire galaxy. 5 days had passed since the children disappeared. The human parents could not sleep or eat properly. The pain of losing their children was eating them alive. But each parent was also starting to notice more things that did not make sense. Wanbin decided to use his skills as a xenopsychologist to find answers. He began having careful conversations with the Velthari staff members. He watched their body language and listened to how they spoke. Years of studying alien behavior had taught him to read the signs when someone was lying. Dr. Veltaran was the most suspicious. When Wanbin asked about the rescue operation, the Velthari scientist would look away. His skin color changed slightly, which Wanbin knew was a sign of stress in Velthari people. When Wanbin mentioned the children who had died, Dr. Veltaran's breathing became faster. "Tell me about your research here," Wanbin said during one conversation. "What kind of studies do you do?" "We study many things," Dr. Veltaran answered, but his voice was tight. "Animal behavior, plant growth, cultural differences between species." "Do you ever study children?" Wanbin asked carefully. "Young members of different species?" Dr. Veltaran's skin color changed again. "Sometimes, when their parents bring them for educational visits." Wanbin made mental notes about every reaction. Dr. Veltaran was definitely hiding something about children and research. Meanwhile, Yunji was using her engineering skills to investigate the station itself. She had convinced the station's chief engineer to give her access to the power distribution systems. She told him she wanted to understand how different species designed their technology. What she found shocked her. The station was using 3 times more power than it should need for normal operations. Most of the extra power was going to sections that were supposed to be empty storage areas. "Why do these areas need so much power?" she asked the chief engineer. "Dr. Veltaran's research requires special equipment," the engineer answered. "Very advanced life support systems and monitoring devices." "Life support for what?" Yunji asked. The engineer looked uncomfortable. "I do not ask questions about research projects," he said quickly, and walked away. Yunji studied the power distribution maps more carefully. The areas using the most power were arranged like living quarters. Not just any living quarters, but ones designed for small occupants. The life support systems were calibrated for beings much smaller than adult Veltari or humans. Nari had been monitoring all communications going to and from the station. Her job was to handle diplomatic communications, but her training also covered intelligence gathering. She found more encrypted messages that mentioned subjects and behavioral observation. One message particularly worried her. It was from Dr. Veltaran to someone on the Velthari homeworld. The message mentioned 4 new subjects showing remarkable adaptation and intelligence and requested permission to extend the study period. When Nari tried to decode more of the message, she found references to young specimens and unprecedented cooperative behavior. The timing of these messages matched exactly with when their children had disappeared. Captain Jinho had ordered his crew to conduct more detailed scans of the station. His tactical officer Youngho was very skilled with sensors. What they found made Captain Jinho's military instincts go on high alert. "Sir, there are life signs in sections that should be empty," Youngho reported. "The readings are strange, though. They are much smaller than adult Velthari or humans." "How much smaller?" Captain Jinho asked. "About the size of human children," Youngho answered. Captain Jinho felt his blood turn cold. He had served in many battles, but nothing had ever scared him as much as this possibility. "Are you certain about these readings?" "Yes, sir. 4 distinct life signs, all in the same area. They have been there for several days." Miran, the cultural attaché, had been studying Velthari behavior for years. She knew that different alien species had different ideas about research and ethics. Some species thought it was acceptable to study other beings without their permission. But even by those standards, something felt very wrong about this station. She had noticed that certain areas of the station were completely off limits to visitors. The Velthari staff would not even talk about what was in those areas. When she asked about taking a tour of the research facilities, she was told that all research areas were confidential for security reasons. Seok-jin, the security specialist, had been mapping the station's layout. He found that the restricted areas were all connected by special corridors with extra security systems. These areas had their own power supply, their own life support, and their own communication networks. Someone has built a completely separate facility inside this station, he told Moran. A facility designed to keep secrets. In the research lab, the children had made significant progress on their escape plan. Ji-won had finally managed to connect her homemade device to the station's computer system. She could not control anything yet, but she could access information. "I found something," she whispered to the others. "There is a map of this place in the computer. We are in something called Research Level 3. "What else can you find?" Taehyun asked. Ji-won worked with her device for several minutes. "There are other rooms like ours, but they are empty now. It looks like they kept other beings here before us." This information made all 4 children feel sick. They were not the first ones to be trapped in this place. Other creatures had been held here and studied like animals in a zoo. "We have to get out of here," Minho said, his young voice full of anger. "And we have to make sure they can never do this to anyone else." So-young had been listening to the sounds from outside their room. Her excellent hearing had picked up conversations between the guards. "They are worried about something," she reported. "They keep talking about the human adults and too many questions. That means our parents are looking for us," Taehyun said with hope in his voice. "But our parents think we are dead," Ji-won said sadly. "Then we have to find a way to tell them we are alive," Taehyun decided. "Ji-won, can your device send messages?" "Not yet," Ji-won said, "but I am learning. Give me more time." The investigation was starting to come together from multiple directions. Ambassador Kyung-jae called a meeting with all the human adults. They shared what each person had discovered. Wonbin reported on Dr. Veltarin's suspicious behavior. Yoonji showed them the power distribution data that suggested living quarters for small beings. Nari played the encoded messages that mentioned subjects and specimens. Captain Jinho shared the sensor readings showing life signs in restricted areas. "Put it all together," Ambassador Kyung-jae said grimly, "and it suggests our children might still be alive." The room was completely silent for several minutes. Each parent was afraid to hope, but also afraid not to hope. "If they are alive," Hyunwoo said in a voice like ice, "and if someone has been keeping them prisoner for 5 days." He did not finish the sentence, but everyone understood. Hyunwoo's diplomatic mask was starting to slip, revealing the soldier underneath. "We need proof before we do anything," Ambassador Kyung-jae said. "If we are wrong, we could start a war. If we are right..." He paused. "If we are right, we need to be very careful about how we handle this." But the parents were past the point of being careful. If their children were alive and being held prisoner, nothing else mattered. Each parent began making their own plans for what they would do when they found the truth. Dr. Veltaran was so focused on his research that he still did not realize the danger he was in. He continued to study the children and make notes about their behavior. He was planning to publish papers about his discoveries that would make him famous throughout the galaxy. The Velthari scientist had no idea that he had just turned 4 human parents into the most dangerous beings in the universe. Humans who thought their children were dead could be reasoned with. Humans who discovered their children were being held prisoner were a completely different kind of threat. The investigation was almost complete. Soon the truth would come out, and when it did, nothing would ever be the same. 7 days after the children had been taken, the truth finally came out. Dayun had managed to crack the most heavily encrypted message in the Velthari communication system. When she read what it said, Her hand shook so badly she could barely hold the data pad. The message was from Dr. Veltaran to a research council on the Velthari homeworld. It described his breakthrough research on human juvenile behavior and included detailed observations about 4 remarkable subjects aged 6 to 10 Earth years. Dayun ran to Ambassador Kyungjae's office. "Sir, you need to see this right now," she said, her voice barely controlled. Ambassador Kyungjae read the message twice before the full meaning hit him. Their children were alive. They had been prisoners for a week, being studied like laboratory animals. He felt a cold fury building inside him that he had never experienced before. "Call an emergency meeting," he told Dahyun. "Get all the parents here immediately, and get me a secure communication line to Captain Jinho." Within minutes, all the human adults were gathered in the conference room. Ambassador Kyungjae read the intercepted message aloud. The silence that followed was more terrifying than any scream. Hyunwoo stood up slowly. His diplomatic training vanished completely, replaced by the cold precision of his military background. "Where are they?" he asked in a voice that made everyone in the room step back. "Research level 3, according to this message," Ambassador Kyungjae answered. Yoonji was already working on her datapad, pulling up the station schematics she had studied. "I know exactly where that is," she said. Her engineering mind was now focused on one problem: how to get her daughter back. Nari activated her communication equipment. "I am sending a message to every human ship within 50 light years," she announced. "Full priority alert. They need to know what happened here." Wanbin was the quietest of the parents, but his silence was the most dangerous. His knowledge of alien psychology told him exactly what Dr. Veltaran had been doing to their children. The thought made him want to commit violence. Captain Jinho received the emergency communication while he was on the bridge of his ship. When he heard the truth, he immediately ordered battle stations. "All hands prepare for combat operations," he announced over the ship's communication system. His first officer, Young-ho, looked confused. "Sir, are we under attack?" "Worse," Captain Jinho said grimly. "Someone has been holding human children prisoner. That makes this station a legitimate military target." Dr. Haywon, the human mission's xenobiologist, was asked to explain the situation to the Velthari staff. She had worked with many alien species and understood their different perspectives on research and ethics. She found Dr. Veltaran in his laboratory, still making notes about the children's behavior. "Doctor," she said calmly, "I need you to listen to me very carefully. You have made a terrible mistake." "I do not understand," Dr. Veltaran replied. "My research is proceeding excellently. The human juveniles are providing fascinating data." Dr. Haywon took a deep breath. "You have taken human children. Not just any humans, but children. Do you understand what that means?" "It means I am studying the juvenile phase of human development," Dr. Veltaran answered, confused by her tone. "No," Dr. Haywon said. "It means you have just declared war on the entire human species. Taking someone's child is the worst crime you can commit against a human. You might as well have murdered their entire families." Dr. Veltaran began to look worried. "But it is just research. I am treating them well. They have food, shelter, educational materials." "Doctor, let me explain something about human psychology," Dr. Haywon said. "Human parents will die to protect their children. They will kill to get them back. They will burn down entire worlds if necessary. And right now, 4 human parents think their children are dead. When they find out the truth," she did not finish the sentence, but Dr. Veltaran was beginning to understand that he had made a serious error. Meanwhile, in their prison, the children sensed that something was changing. The guards seemed nervous. There was more activity in the corridors outside their room. Strange alarms kept going off in distant parts of the station. "Something is happening," So-young reported. "The guards are scared." Ji-won had finally managed to break into the station's communication system with her homemade device. "I can send a message," she whispered excitedly, "but I need to know where to send it." "Try to find our parents," Taehyun said. "If they are on the station, there should be a way to reach them." Ji-won worked with her device for several minutes. "I found something," she said. "There is a human communication system connected to this station. I think I can send a message there. She began typing a simple message. This is Jiwon. We are alive. Minho, Taehyun, Soyoung and I are prisoners on research level 3. Please help us. The message went out through the station's communication system and reached Nari's equipment within seconds. When Nari saw her daughter's name on the communication screen, she started crying and laughing at the same time. They are alive, she announced to everyone in the room. Jiwon just sent us a message. They are all alive. The relief was overwhelming, but it quickly turned into something much more dangerous. Now they knew for certain that their children were being held prisoner. The time for diplomacy was over. Station Commander Keth Moran was starting to panic. His communication officers reported that human ships were moving toward the station from several directions. The humans on board the station were acting strangely. Their diplomatic politeness had disappeared, replaced by something that scared him. Dr. Veltaran, he called over the communication system. I need you to end your research immediately. Release the human juveniles right now. But I am not finished, Dr. Veltaran protested. I need more time to complete my study. You do not understand, Commander Keth Moran said desperately. The humans are preparing for military action. Their ships are taking attack positions. If we do not return their young immediately, they will destroy this station. Dr. Veltaran finally began to realize the seriousness of the situation. But he was a scientist, not a military officer. He did not understand how quickly things could turn violent. Yunwoo was no longer pretending to be a diplomat. He had changed into dark clothing and was checking equipment that definitely was not diplomatic. Yoonji was uploading virus programs into her datapad, programs that could shut down entire computer systems. Nari had taken control of all communication systems and was jamming any signals that might warn the Veltari homeworld. Wanbin was studying the station's layout and identifying the quickest ways to reach the research levels. We go in quietly first, Hyunwoo told the others. We get the children out safely. Then we make sure this never happens again. Captain Jinho had moved his ship into an attack position directly above the station. His weapons were powered up and ready to fire. If anything happens to our people during the rescue, he told his crew, we will turn this station into space dust. The children could hear more activity outside their room now. Footsteps running in the corridors, voices speaking in urgent tones, emergency announcements in the Velthari language. Our parents are coming, Taehyun said with certainty. I can feel it. Good, Minho said, gripping one of his improvised weapons. I want to see what happens when someone makes my father angry. Dr. Veltaran tried one last time to convince Commander Kethmoran to let him continue his research. The data I am collecting is invaluable, he argued. No one has ever studied human juvenile behavior in such detail. Doctor, Commander Kethmoran said, his voice full of fear. You have been studying the children of apex predators, and now the predators are coming for their young. If you do not release those children immediately, none of us will survive the next hour. But it was already too late. The storm was about to break, and nothing could stop it now. 4 human parents were coming to get their children back, and they were prepared to go through anyone who tried to stop them. The galaxy was about to learn why you never, ever take a human's child. 8 days after their children had been taken, the human parents were ready to act. They had spent hours planning every detail of their rescue operation. This was not going to be a wild attack driven by emotion. This was going to be a precise, coordinated assault that would show the galaxy exactly what humans were capable of when their children were threatened. Yoonji struck first. Using the access she had gained to the station's computer systems, she began shutting down everything that was not essential for life support. The lights went out in sections throughout the station. Security systems failed. Communication networks went dead. Even the doors stopped working properly. What is happening? Dr. Veltaran demanded as his laboratory went dark. The humans are happening, Commander Kethamoran replied, terror clear in his voice. Hyunwoo moved through the station like a shadow. Years of military training had taught him how to move silently and avoid detection. But stealth was not his only advantage. He knew exactly where he was going thanks to the intelligence the other parents had gathered. When he encountered Velthari guards, they did not even see him coming. Hyunwoo had no intention of killing anyone unless they forced him to, but he was prepared to do whatever was necessary to reach his son. Meanwhile, Nari had taken complete control of all communication systems on the station. No one could send messages asking for help. No one could warn other Velthari ships about what was happening. She had also sent detailed reports to every human military command in the galaxy, explaining exactly what had been done to their children. Wanbin was using his knowledge of Velthari psychology to create maximum fear and confusion among the station's crew. He appeared in different sections of the station, asking calm questions about where the children were being held. His polite, scientific manner made him somehow more terrifying than if he had been shouting threats. "I am conducting a study," he told frightened Velthari crew members. "I want to understand how your species reacts when you realize you have made a serious mistake. Please describe your current emotional state." Captain Jinho's ship hung over the station like a sword ready to fall. Every weapon was powered up and aimed at critical systems. His crew was ready to disable the entire station if necessary. "Sir," his tactical officer Minji reported, "I am detecting several Velthari ships approaching the system. They will arrive in approximately 2 hours. "It does not matter," Captain Jinho replied. "By then, this will all be over." In the research lab, Dr. Veltaran was frantically trying to contact his superiors on the Velthari homeworld, but all communication systems were under human control now. He was completely cut off from any help. The children could hear the sounds of their rescue getting closer. Emergency alarms were blaring throughout the station. There were sounds of running footsteps and shouting voices in the corridors. "They are coming," Ji-won said excitedly, still working with her improvised communication device. "I can hear them." "What should we do?" So-young asked. "Get ready to run," Taehyun said. "When that door opens, we go as fast as we can." The children had spent 8 days preparing for this moment. They had tools, they had plans, and they had each other. They were ready to help with their own rescue. Hyunwoo reached research level 3 first. The security systems that should have stopped him were all disabled thanks to Yoonji's work. The guards who should have been watching the area were dealing with emergencies throughout the station. He found the door to his son's prison and began working to open it. The lock was electronic, but Minho had taught him enough about such systems to figure it out. Inside the room, the children heard someone working on their door. "Is that you, Dad?" Minho called out. "Yes, son," Hyunwoo replied, his voice breaking with emotion. "We are here to take you home." When the door finally opened, all 4 children rushed out into their father's arms. They were scared. They were tired, but they were alive and unhurt. The reunion lasted only a few seconds before Hyunwoo's training took over. "We need to move quickly," he told the children. "Follow me and do exactly what I say." The other parents arrived within minutes. Hyunji swept Ji-won into her arms, tears streaming down her face. Wanbin held Taehyun tightly, whispering apologies for not finding him sooner. Nari clutched So-young and refused to let her go, but the rescue was not over yet. They still needed to get off the station safely. Dr. Veltaran appeared in the corridor, flanked by several guards. "You cannot just take them," he protested. "I have not finished my research. The data I have collected is too valuable to lose." Hyunwoo stepped in front of the children, his diplomatic mask completely gone. "You have been experimenting on our children for 8 days, he said in a voice like ice. "Give me one good reason why I should not kill you right now." "It was just research," Dr. Veltaran said desperately. "I was treating them well. They were safe." Wanbin stepped forward, his scientist's curiosity now focused on a new subject. "Dr. Veltaran, you have provided us with excellent data about Velthari psychology under stress. You seem to be incapable of understanding that what you did was wrong. This suggests a fundamental difference in how our species value young life. But all species study other species," Dr. Veltaran argued. "This is how we learn about each other." "Most species ask permission first," Yoonji said coldly. Most species do not kidnap children. Dr. Haywen appeared with several other human staff members. She had been trying to explain the situation to the remaining Velthari crew. Dr. Veltaran, she said sadly, you have created an incident that will be remembered for generations. You have proven that some species cannot be trusted with human children. Commander Keth Moran arrived with what was left of his security team, but when he saw the 4 human parents standing protectively around their children, he realized that any attempt to stop them would result in violence that his people could not win. Let them go, he told his guards. Do not interfere. But the research... Dr. Veltaran started to protest. The research is over, Commander Keth Moran said firmly. You have done enough damage. The human families made their way to the docking bay where Captain Jinho's shuttle was waiting. The Velthari crew members they passed stepped aside quickly, not wanting to provoke any more anger from these dangerous beings who had invaded their station. As they boarded the shuttle, Ambassador Kyungjae addressed Commander Keth Moran one final time. This incident will be reported to both our governments, he said formally. There will be consequences. I understand, Commander Keth Moran replied. Dr. Veltaran acted without proper authorization. We will ensure this never happens again. You will do more than that, Ambassador Kyungjae said. You will make sure that every species in the galaxy understands what happens when someone takes human children. The shuttle returned to Captain Jinho's ship, and within minutes, they were leaving the station behind. The children were finally safe, reunited with their parents and heading home. But the consequences of Dr. Veltaran's research were just beginning. Word of the Omega Station incident spread throughout the galaxy within days. The story of how human parents had infiltrated and neutralized an entire research station to rescue their children became legendary. Other species began to understand that humans were not just dangerous individually, but that threatening their young turned them into something far more terrifying. New interspecies laws were written specifically to protect human children. Research protocols were changed to prevent anything like Dr. Veltaran's study from ever happening again. The Velthari government issued formal apologies and paid enormous compensation to the affected families. Dr. Veltaran faced trial for his crimes, but the real punishment was the universal disgust his actions had generated. No species would work with him again. His research was banned and destroyed. He became a living reminder of what happened when someone misunderstood the bonds between human parents and their children. The 4 children recovered from their ordeal and grew up to become symbols of human resilience. Their courage during 8 days of captivity and their parents' determination to rescue them became stories told throughout the galaxy. Minho followed in his father's footsteps, becoming both a soldier and a diplomat. Jiwan became an engineer like her mother, designing security systems to protect families. Taehyun became a xenopsychologist like his father, working to prevent cultural misunderstandings. Soyoung became a communication specialist like her mother, helping different species understand each other better. But most importantly, the galaxy learned a lesson that would never be forgotten. Human children are not research subjects. They are not specimens to be studied. They are the most precious and protected members of humanity, and anyone who threatens them will face the full fury of a species that values its young above all else. The Omega Station incident proved that humans would go to any length, face any danger, and overcome any obstacle to protect their children. It showed the galaxy that behind humanity's diplomatic politeness lay the heart of apex predators who would never, ever surrender their young.